Welcome to Web Handling. My name is Dave Roysam. I am super excited to continue our new series called War Stories. In this week's show, I summarize my distrust of measurements based on work in 1,000 plants. While the subject of this story is web thickness scanners, the lessons are much larger. I know your time is precious, so let's get started. Recall that a war story is a memorable personal experience that we might learn from. We are guided by the saying that the smart person learns from their own mistakes, but the wise person learns from the mistakes of others. This story is a caricature and synthesis of experiences with instrumentations that was presented in my conference paper of 15 years ago titled Secrets of a Level Product and Process. It begins with how the scanner would not see what was apparent to most people working in the area. However, lest you think that Dr. Roysam just says a thing about scanners, be patient and see this through to the surprise ending, which has a much broader conclusion. So here, we have a roll that we aren't sure of. Some call this poor roll condition. On the other hand, those who have taken my Web 101 course should think quite differently. In fact, it is not the roll that is the defect, but rather the lane of bagginess coming from the roll. If we look close, we can see a bulge in the wound roll. Under good circumstances, such as a smooth and shiny web, you can see errors in perfect cylindricity about the size of the thickness of a human hair. You also may be able to feel the bulge with your hands. Under good circumstances, such as a smooth web, you might be able to feel errors in perfect cylindricity, the size of the thickness of a human hair. However, for safety, never ever touch a running roll, as was a common inspection practice in paper mills. You may also be able to hear the bulge or hard spot as a higher pitch when the roll is struck there as opposed to elsewhere, using a carefully crafted wooden club or with a roll hardness instrument. These manual and instrument options are covered in great detail in my award-winning and trademark Web 101 class, as well as in 3 of my books. On higher modulus products, such as most papers and some films, this method can be exceedingly sensitive. One reason is that you are sampling 100 or even 1,000 layers at a time every time the roll is struck. So, a very common reaction is to look at the scanner's profile if you have a scanner. Here's a generic plot. They all look similar. They all look like the EKG of a heart patient ready to expire. This is a time when craziness often develops. People try and find a spike in the scanner profile that aligns with their lane of trouble. First, this is completely backward. It is the scanner that is supposed to predict the location and severity of the defect, not the other way around, where you try and justify your $1 million scanner by seeing if it can see what you already see with your eyes, ears, and hand. Second, it is crazy because there are dozens of spikes, some which will undoubtedly align with your working theory. Finally, it is crazy because the next scan trace a minute later will look completely different. Alternatively, the scanner profile may look flat. However, that is just an artifact from 2 things. First, that the engineer turned the gain down on the display. Second, that the gain is such that the 1% resolution and thickness variability that could very well trouble webs, wound rows, and customers alike is simply in the mud of the display. The final insult comes from the very group that is tasked with protecting the quality of the product and ensuring the customer is satisfied. That is the Quality Assurance Department. They say, but we're in spec. And I say, who cares? Fill in the blank about specs. You are shipping bad product to your customer. So now, the great reveal, the Royston rule of instrumentation, which is, the more expensive it is, the less I trust it. I have an FAA pilot's license for light aircraft as well as another for commercial drone operator. So what I'm about to say is from direct experience. Pilots call the primary instruments on their panel indicators because they only indicate reality. And any pilot who believes them without cross-checking is a dangerous fool. If one indicator does not agree with the others, it can be cause for a distress call and priority handling at the nearest airport. This characterization is not just about scanners, or even more broadly, instruments. It is about all measurements. I designed, built, flew, displayed at air shows, and eventually crashed an experimental aircraft. The crash is documented in my Web301.07. In any case, it is important to build things square and level. I bought 6 name brand Carpenter Square at a hardware store. However, none were square, as can be checked by flipping the square and redrawing a line. I eventually found one that was better. It was my wife's sewing square, with which I built my entire airplane with. Let's wrap this up quickly because the show is getting a bit long. Scanners may not be able to always resolve the tiny caliper variations that can ruin the wound roll, and hence the web, and hence the defect rate, and hence the customer's experience. However, as you should suspect, this is not about scanners or carpenter squares. It is an admonishment not to trust any measurement or any observation when troubleshooting gets difficult. Unless, of course, these measurements and observations are independently cross-checked. I hope that you've enjoyed this summary story on instrumentation. If you have a topic you would like to hear about, let me know in the comment section below. If you found any of these stories to be interesting or useful, please like and share and subscribe. See you next time.